Hello and welcome. This is the Pixel Empire channel, and today I'm going to be kind of going over some of the changes I've recently made to my base, as well as a lot of big changes that have gone on to the game itself. Right now I've been spending a lot of time kind of trying to tailor up episodes and get them to where they need to be, but I'm finding I'm spending way too much time on that, and I'm kind of slipping behind in some of the new advancements to the game. So I really don't want to fall too far behind, and honestly, I might even just end up scrapping a lot of the old episodes. So, I mean, I might still post them, but I think it's going to be a later on kind of thing. I'd rather just kind of keep up with where the game's at right now, especially with HQ7 adjustments. As you can see right here, I'm actually new HQ7. I've been really trying to get this thing going and getting on top of my upgrades. As you can see also, there's been definitely a big advancement in my walls. Before I had maybe two of these little channels here. I'm going to highlight. So I had about these two channels there, but with the new level 7 and more turrets and as well as more walls, I've been able to expand it so it's actually in both sections. So now I'll be able to funnel units from each side of my wall, which is very good. One of the biggest counters for this, though, is the Juggernaut and basically any vehicle. These vehicles actually don't get channeled into those walls, so they're not going to go through that stuff. They usually will just punch a hole through the wall, which will give infantry new pathing. So I'm going to go into the base design, as well as some of the new changes that we've seen. I'm going to kind of pull up some forum posts on that one as well. And I think I might go over some defenses, like defensive replays, so you guys can kind of see, as well as a couple offense. I want to try and keep it short, so probably when I'm discussing turrets, I'll be kind of playing defense and offense in the background, just kind of picking out the ones that I really want you guys to see, and just going from there. Okay, so this is the new balance adjustment that just went through as of November 25th. Anthony Sharma here has actually posted it. So, level 6 vehicles, Probe Droid and Skiff. The Empire's Probe Droid and the Rebel Skiff are both seeing changes to increase their offensive utility and damage. Range increases from 3 to 7 for the Probe Droid, increased damage against infantry for the Probe Droid, general damage increased for the Skiff, and increased damage against vehicles for the Skiff. Now, this wasn't very exciting to me as an Imperial. I imagine it's probably very exciting for Rebels, because the Rebel Skiff is actually a very strong vehicle. It's got great anti-vehicle abilities. Probe Droid and the Skiff are usually two that are very good for squad center troops. So now with the Probe Droid, this isn't very exciting. 7, I mean, at least now you're a little bit further back in terms of your range, but the damage is, I haven't really noticed. I haven't noticed a difference, but then again, I haven't really used it very much. I mean, they're still a very effective unit against infantry, but my biggest issue with them is that they're so weak. You get them caught out, and if a vehicle is like focusing on them, or if medic heavy group is passing through and they've just knocked out a structure, they're instantly going to target that probe droid. And there's no amount of damage that probe droid's putting out that's going to equal, or at least, surpass the healing power of the medic droid. So unless it's directly hitting the medic droid, you're really not seeing a big difference there. So, I can go in here. Now this is the one I'm very much more excited about, and it's changed the meta for Empire. It's completely changed the way in which I operate now. As you'll see from my attacks, and you can kind of compare that to the previous attacks I was utilizing. It's definitely changed the way that Empire pretty much runs their attacks now. So, level 7 vehicles, MHC, the Umbaran Mobile Heavy Cannon, and Hailfire. The Empire's MHC and the Rebels' Hailfire are both seeing changes to increase their offensive utility and damage. Range has been increased from 9 to 10, now does full damage to walls, which is fantastic. MHC turn radius increased to allow it to turn more smoothly. And that, I really didn't care very much. I feel like that's more of like a kind of a polish to everything, but the big things to note here is the range increase from 9 to 10 and the full damage to walls. These guys now, I mean, they're right there with like a regular AT-AT. The only one that has a further range is the Elite AT-AT at 11. So these are fantastic as long as you screen them very well, like with Dark Troopers or even tanks. Tanks are actually my preferred method for screening these. If you screen them, they will do some amazing damage to condensed bases. If it's a spread out base, maybe not so great. You probably should stick with the Royal Guard, and you can use these, but you're not really going to see as much of the effective power as you would with a condensed base, which is what you're going to mostly be up against is condensed bases. So it does full damage to walls, which means this guy is going to be punching holes in walls, and it really defeats the purpose of ever leveling the interceptor, the TIE interceptor. It's complete garbage now with this, and I would say that pretty much any wall breacher, which is the Dewback and the Shock Trooper, are pretty much obsolete with this now. We have a vehicle now that not only does it do heavy damage to turrets, but it also punches holes in walls. I mean, that's fantastic. And I'm not talking like one or two. I'm talking like it can blow out like a good section worth, where your vehicles aren't going to be sitting there spending so much time trying to knock out walls so that it has enough space to to path through. So this is actually a really cool update, and it's made me actually adjust to utilizing the UMHC as well as tanks. So as you can see from the replays here, you can see how well this MHC is working now, and just how effective it is for the Empire. So the other adjustment is level 7 infantry, sniper and marksman. So Empire's sniper and the Rebels marksman are both seeing changes to increase their offensive utility damage. Range has been increased from 9 to 10, which is again awesome. Getting those really squishy units to kind of get pushed back a little further so they don't have to get up in close and really can't utilize their effective damage, especially given that the snipers, it's a 7 unit capacity. So it's just, this is a very good change for that, and now does full damage to non-wall and non-shield buildings. And that's good, but I still don't really see the use of this in offensive. I imagine this is very good for defensive. If you're pretty much putting your squad center in the base and behind walls, now these guys can actually shoot from inside your base, which I imagine is very good. But I'm not crazy. I've never been really crazy about the sniper, which is a real shame because I really want the sniper to be this awesome unit, but I don't like that it's 7 units. I really feel like it should be at a max, maybe 5, 6. That's a good range. 7 to me, I view this as such a big number. And I know it's ridiculous. That's a 1 capacity difference, but that's also the difference between repair droid and medic droid, is that 1 capacity difference. So it can be a little bit like just that 1 point seems daunting. Like when you compare the UMHC to the ATMP, ATMP is 15 capacity, while the UMHC is it's 12. So that's definitely it's just more bearable, I guess, is what I'm getting at here, is that it's not such a daunting capacity number that's just going to pretty much eat up your capacity. An ATMP is pretty much half the capacity of an AT-AT, and I'd rather have an AT-AT than ever using the ATMP. I feel like that's such a useless unit. So pretty much there's been a buff here for the range, which they're kind of trying to fluff more of these 7 units. So this way people actually want to get to HQ7. A lot of people have just been so disappointed because pretty much HQ6 was defensive units, HQ7 was defensive units. We're just seeing a lot of defensive units, and people are getting tired of it. So to see that they're actually trying to put offensive capabilities in these units, it really does motivate you to want to get up higher. So this was definitely the most controversial update. Level 6 and 7 turrets, rocket turrets, mortar turrets, and burst turrets. These were nerfed. So turrets for both factions are receiving damage and health reductions to address difficulty. Damage reduction at levels 6 and 7, health reduction at levels 6 and 7. So these are pretty noticeable. I'm going to kind of show you guys just what the difference is now between all the different turrets. The only one I'm not going to be able to show is the rapid turret, but it's basically the same. Nothing was changed with the rapid turret. It maintained its stats. So the big changes were the burst turret, which I thought was really disappointing because the burst turret, it trades off that 1 tile range for more damage. So to do this and make it so that it's technically weaker than rapid turret is a bit of a bummer. The reason why it's not weak, I say technically weaker than the rapid turret, is because the rapid turret and the burst turret on DPS alone, the rapid turret does more damage. But if you're taking into consideration the burst turret's multipliers to pretty much every unit, I mean vehicle, armor, armored infantry, it has a higher multiplier than the rapid turret. So it will actually deal more damage. So when you actually take in the calculations of the burst turret versus the rapid turret, the burst turret still does do more damage, it's just now it's not so ridiculously noticeable. I still think that's a bummer. I really love burst turrets, as you guys can probably have seen from my previous videos. It's definitely was the direction that I was wanting to go with my base. So to kind of have to go back to pre-October builds where it's, you know, heavy mortars, it's a bit of a bummer. But, you know, meta changes and you just got to keep up with it. When they announced this, pretty much I just was freaking out that this is, you know, terrible on paper. It looked, you know, like it was just going to break the game. No turrets resistance. I mean, basically defenses were going to be a joke. And, I mean, I just got to level 6 and 7, and I barely, you know, I put everything I got in my resources to my upgrades. So, you know, having pretty much nothing and then not being able to defend that nothing makes it even more nothing, and that's just frustrating. So I understand a lot of the frustration some players are, you know, coming to with that conclusion of just not being able to defend your base, but you know, there is some trade-offs to that, which I'll get into when I discuss these turret updates. So, Rebel Han Solo, yeah, this not, I mean, range increase to Han Solo has been changed, his favorite target has been changed to turret, so he's pretty much like AT-MP Mark III, which is good. Yeah, I still don't think he's going to be used, but that's... Hey, at least it gives variation. I guess if you're going all Wookiees and you need some damage and you need someone to punch holes in the shields, you know, Han Solo is going to be your go-to guy, but I don't know. I'm not even sure if you'd really give up Chewie for that. So, medal update. You know, medals are just really not something to base this game off of anymore. I'm going to go into another episode about basically just the medal and the leaderboards, just not to really take too much heart into that, because, you know, it's really become a competition of, yeah, you do have to be skilled and you do have to be in higher levels, but it's also a competition of who has the thickest wallet, and it's not something that you should be really discouraged about, you know, or really, honestly, you really shouldn't even be trying to get into that thing. Like, if you want to, that's your business, and hey, more power to you, but it's definitely not something that I play my game for. I do try to be competitive, so I do want to do the best I can. I still want to get as many medals as possible, and if I were to end up on the leaderboard, great, but I'm not going to play this game specifically to be on the leaderboard. You're just kind of setting yourself up for a lot of heartbreak, because a lot of these players, they've been playing this for a while, and they are not afraid to drop dollars for medals, basically. So we're going to go back into the base. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go over my base. The fringe parts are pretty much, they are the same. There's no real difference there. I think I might have moved out a structure or two out there just because of the reconfiguration of my base. But for the most part, this is the same base concept. The turrets, as you can see, they're very much different. I have a lot more mortars than what I wanted previously, when I was kind of, you know, more slamming against the mortars and pushing, you know, players that, you know, hey, burst turrets is the new age cool thing to do, but it's not now. They've nerfed it pretty good, and I mean, it still does great damage, especially against juggernauts and especially against vehicles. It still is a very good option. It's a very well-rounded option. If you're not, like, it's good for dealing with Wookiees, it's good for dealing with vehicles, it's very well-rounded. You still want the rocket turrets because they're still going to be fantastic against vehicles, but if they're going to go against you with bruiser infantry, which is very frequent, I don't recommend doing a ton, like basically only doing mortars and rocket turrets. Some people do, and that's, you know, completely great for them. For me, I don't really like it because, again, I don't really want to condone the idea of massive mortar use. But unfortunately, with these recent updates, I mean, if you want to be competitive, you have to expand your use of mortars. With the medic droids, I mean, the mortars damage now, is far less. I'm going to bring that up. So right here, it's 1,120. Now when you compare that to the burst turret, which is also nerfed, I remind you, 1,761. I mean, it's about 600 damage that we're not seeing from this unit now. So I mean, this is definitely crippling to this turret, and I mean, it definitely makes it so that you have to create more of them in order to deal with medic droids, as well as the infantry that, you know, it's basically protecting. So, and also I wanted to remind you guys that it's not here. I might pull it up in the post, but Anthony Sharma actually reminded people that the rocket targeting of medic droids was actually a bug, which I don't think it really should have been, but I guess they viewed it as such. It was a bug, and therefore they actually removed it. So now rocket turrets, if they kill a target, they're not going to retarget the medic droid. It's not going to shift its targeting to the medic droid first. It's going to go to the next unit. So the concept of doing burst turrets to knock out, you know, that one lead unit so that your rocket turrets can refocus and take out the medic droids is no longer a tactic. It's no longer viable, and it doesn't work. So anyone that was kind of taking notes on that one and, you know, changing up your turrets, I'm sorry. You know, these guys, they switch them back and forth, and you just got to kind of keep up. Right here, I still have the three shield layout. So this way, my base is always covered by all 3 turrets. As you can see, it also overlaps these channels. So you can see there, it overlaps the channel. It does a bit here. I try to make sure that it covers my structures, but also that I kind of get a bit in that channel area. Because what's going to happen is that the units are going to run into that shield, and when they're in that shield, they cannot be healed. So as long as the shield is up, they can't be healed. And that means that my burst turrets and mortars here are just going to wreck them. And that's exactly what you want, and that is the counter now for these for this tactic, is that you want to lure them into your base. It's absolutely necessary that you do that, because if not, you're not going to be able to shut down that healing unit, and honestly, you're just going to get wrecked. They're going to push from one side to the next, and they're going to win. And it's going to probably be about 100% win. But with this, you can either mitigate it to where it's not 100% win, where it's maybe a 2-star. I rarely get 2 stars. And for the most part, I'll get either a win or I'll get 1 stars. But again, you can compensate for that entirely by just attacking. I mean, one attack, you already negate everything that you lost. You know, you already pretty much earn back all your medals, and as long as you make it so that at least it's a real pain to try and get all your resources, and, you know, lose very minimal amount, not only are you costing that player resources to invade your base, but you're also able to get them back very quickly. That's why a lot of people need to stop viewing 1-star losses as an actual loss. It's not. If they're dropping 5 or 6, you know, X-wings to kind of win the fight, you just dropped basically 30,000 credits, just like that, just for, you know, using all those X-wings. That's not even taking into account your attack comp, which is probably going to put you in the 40-50 range. You know, because I'm rounding here, so really you're going to be the 40 and 50 range of what you're spending. So, you know, unless you're rating for about 60, 70,000, you know, 100,000, you're netting even, or you're actually losing money. So when you make a player lose money, that's a success in its own. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. Like, I'm going to try and compile more of when I'm talking, to kind of condense time, I'm going to be showing more of the, more replays. Like, say it's an event, I'm going to do, you know, specifically those plays. You guys are going to see me kind of play it through. But for the most part, I'll probably do, like, defensive replays and offensive replays and whatever. I'm going to do all that stuff during these type of commentaries. For the most part, that's the base changes, the turret changes. This is definitely a buff to every unit. There's a buff to everything. Because now, while the multipliers are still there, the attack power of the turrets is lower. So now, I mean, your tanks are much more stronger. Your AT-ATs can take a lot more hits. Juggernauts can take a lot more hits. Chewie and Wookiees can take more hits. And, you know, attacks overall are just a lot more enjoyable, but it can be a lot more stressful for defense. Because for the most part, it's just a matter of how hard that boot falls on you. You know, either you can really defend yourself and hold them off and, you know, hey, you'll get your wins. or you're going to get stomped and just have to accept that. Like I've said to a lot of players that are saying, well, medic and heavy droids are so broken and it's just not even fair. And well, the thing is, yeah, it's a very strong tactic. It doesn't mean just roll over and accept that you're going to lose and take the 100%. No. You want to make it as difficult as possible. If anything, make it so that it has to drag out so that they only get 2 stars. I mean, I rarely ever get 2 stars. I get I had maybe 2 out of my 11 replays. I had quite a few 1 stars, yes, but I made sure that every time they 1-starred me, that it cost them every inch, and that's exactly what the bases should be designed to do. But, don't expect that every time you're going to get a flawless win of 0% and 0 resources lost. You're going to lose some stuff, but at the same time, you control how much you're going to lose. With all that said, I think that's going to be it, and I'm going to try and release more episodes from now on. My internet is dead slow, so I'm going to try and kind of keep up with all that. But, yeah, thanks for your time, guys.